Remembered that I needed to hit the record button. Yay, we did it. Today's workshop is going to be recorded. It will also be captioned and uploaded to our YouTube channel. You should know that when we go into our breakout rooms at the end, that content will not be recorded. It will sort of stop there and then start up again whenever we come back together. Today we have three main agenda items. You will notice that both AI and myself enjoy things in threes, and you will see that throughout this presentation. We will start by distinguishing human intelligence from artificial intelligence. Then we will give examples of AI-generated media to demonstrate our three-step evaluation process, another set of threes. And we will close with two breakout rooms where you will examine a piece of media using our three-step process and report back if you think it is AI generated or not. So let's begin by dispelling some of the myths about the current state of AI.
They can tell if you use AI in your college essays. It's like if your math teacher told you that she can tell if you use a calculator to do arithmetic. It literally makes zero sense, and there's no technical way for them to do that. That's not actually a thing that's possible.
And I quote, "If you want this to sound more academic, I can add citations in APA or MLA. Insert personal anecdote if you have one. Would you like a version of this essay that sounds more human?" You're right. I see no way us stupid college people could ever figure out when students are using AI.
So that's kind of a silly example. I'm going to drop a link to it in the chat. But it shows that AI really isn't great at helping students cheat. It's not really great at sounding like a human. It's not really great at a lot of things. And that comes down to a single basic fact. AI is not human. When we think of all of the things that human intelligence is good at, we start to see the flaws in artificial intelligence. So humans are adaptable and decisive. We have topics that we are passionate about. We will make a claim and we will stand by that claim. AI doesn't really have passion. It takes a middle of the road stance and it never makes a firm decision because it's trying to make as many people happy as possible. So there's a lot of generalization and weighing both sides against each other. It doesn't really have a say. Another way that we're different is that humans learn from experiences and we gain that knowledge throughout our lives, but AI learns through version updates and training data. So they will be updated and gain a ton of new features and information, and then they plateau and they stay the same for a prolonged period of time until that next update happens. Um, again, humans can have passions and interests. We can be driven by emotional and social influences, but AI really only has mathematical probabilities and the motivations of the people who have created it and prompt it. So all of these things mean that while humans can reflect and think of our own thoughts, we call that metacognition when we think about our thoughts. AI is incapable of that. It can't even admit that it's wrong. If you've seen the how many R's are in strawberry videos that became very popular a couple of months back, you will see that AI is really incapable of admitting whenever it is giving you inaccurate information. So the natural question for any workshop is, why does it matter, right? So who cares if this email was written by AI? The use of AI, in my opinion, isn't really the problem. I think that's up to each individual person, whether or not they will choose to use AI. But the way that AI can introduce mis and disinformation into the things that it's creating is the problem. So, Sora AI is a music generating AI. For a free subscriber, you can generate 10 1-minute long videos a day. But paid subscribers can get up to 500 videos every 24 hours. So the content of these videos are not being fact checked. And researchers are finding that AI accounts are doing kind of nefarious work. One research through Riddance AI found like 174 accounts that have been promoting distrust between the United States and Canada. We're also learning that increased exposure to social media, where there is an excess of this like AI generated content, is leading folks to be incapable of determining if conspiracy theories are true. So we're finding that people who get more of their news from social media rather than traditional news outlets are less capable of determining if something is real or not. So what are we going to do, right? We are going to depend on basic literacy skills in this three-step process. I already mentioned the preference for threes. We're going to see it again. So first, we critically examine the source material, the actual object. Next, you investigate the person who created it or the account that posted it. And finally, you look for corroborating evidence from a third-party source that's not directly referencing the original content that you found. So I kind of conceptualize it as expanding circles of information where with each step you learn a little bit more and you find a little bit more distance from the original source to get a better perspective of its bias. So today we are going to be applying at least one of these three steps to different types of AI generated content, specifically written content, audio, and short form video from social media posts. And to begin this assessment, I will now turn it over to my colleague Megan to discuss AI generated writing.
Thank you, Christina. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Bennis, and I work here in the library in the User and Access Services Department. So to start, I am going to be providing a few tips on spotting AI writing. If there's any suspicion that a piece of writing could be AI generated, you can start with the three-step process. Particularly, step one is going to be the most important and the most useful in this case. If it's something as far as like news sites and things like that, you can continue on to steps two and three. But especially if we're looking at academic settings, it's going to primarily be within the first step and looking at the actual content itself. So AI writing can be found in so many different forms: news articles, blog posts, video scripts, and academic essays, or even educator feedback. As platforms such as ChatGPT become more popular and are used more frequently, the telltale signs of AI of yesteryear, such as the M dash, may not be as prevalent or and have kind of been may have been trained out of the systems, even though they still do show up sometimes. However, there are still plenty of easy to spot markers of AI writing. Some examples of easy to spot markers are placeholder text, like what was mentioned in the video we played in the beginning, along with missing citations, obviously inaccurate information or outdated information, particularly about events that occurred after an update had occurred, for the system. At the other end of the spectrum is perfect grammar. So writing that sounds too proper or stuffy for the context, including like lack of colloquialisms and slang or contractions. Um, so it's going to sound a little too perfect, basically. Next slide. Okay. So when we dig deeper, there are additional markers that can give us a clue as to whether or not something is AI generated. To start, much of the writing is going to be formulaic, following the same sentence structure with barely any deviation. You're going to see a lot of the usage of threes and things like that. And there may also be jarring or dramatic shifts in style or tone. along with a lack of opinion or emotionality that is found in many forms of human-created writing. Large language models, or LLMs, are trained to provide writing that is very middle of the road and will generally lack substance as a whole. These systems are trained to avoid conflict, and offensive materials are trained out of the systems as soon as possible, which is one of the few safety mechanisms or guardrails within generative AI. And typically, this work is outsourced to the global south and third world countries, which is a whole other issue. Um, so this is primarily due to how LLMs work, using statistical probability of what is most likely to be written next, based on what the model has learned through the training corpus. Next, AI writing is also known to include an excessive number of buzzwords or jargon, even when it feels out of place. This can be because words are added to the prompt as keywords, and the AI will add those terms and kind of latch onto them and focus on them to an extent beyond what would be expected in the writing. And next slide. And as we continue to dig, LLMs have a tendency to place undue emphasis or significance on certain topics or events and tend to speak in broad terms rather than providing specific examples or a more nuanced understanding of the topic. One example of this type of overemphasizing can be the usage of contrastive construction. So it's not X, it's Y. So an example of that could be AI is not just a tool, it's a revolution. This type of phrasing is used, again, to gain and retain reader or listener attention, and is used quite often in things like political speeches. And once you know it exists, it's difficult not to find them everywhere. Just like algorithms used for social media, which are created to grab and hold our attention, the algorithms of LLMs seem to create writing that has a similar end goal in mind. The bottom line in spotting AI writing is going to come down to this. There are a lot of words written, but they don't really say anything at all. And next. Okay. And now we get to dive even deeper into a newer area of recent research into how LLMs are impacting human writing and speaking. Yakura et al.'s research on the increased usage of certain terms after the growth of generative AI found that there are many words that are being adopted by humans that are preferred by LLMs. Using transcripts from thousands of YouTube videos, which are likely to be scripted, and podcasts, which are a decent representation of off-the-cuff, less structured language, they were able to spot these differences and pull out certain words that were starting to make its way more often into human speech and human writing. So they found that these certain words have seen a massive increase in usage in both types of media since the proliferation of systems like ChatGPT. In addition, Juzek and Ward out of Florida State University found a similar trend with their research focusing on scientific literature. In their research, they found certain overlap between words that have likely seen increased usage due to the use of LLMs and called them focal words. So these words have seen a spike of usage within scientific writing within the past few years, while also being representative of words that are more frequently incorporated into ChatGPT generated abstracts. Some of the words that researchers found to have increased are on the screen here, with Delph probably being the most well-known and well-discussed among articles and research examining AI writing. While these words are not a definite marker of AI writing, it is something to keep in mind as this type of research continues to be conducted. The impact of LLMs and AI on human language is still not fully understood, and research is still in its infancy, but it is still important to consider when trying to assess writing. Next. Okay, so here we have a fun, quick little activity for you all to try out. So this is from an essay generated in ChatGPT, with the topic being book bans in the United States. There is one obvious mistake here. one that is very easy to spot, although there are a few other signs if you look a bit deeper as well. I'll give everyone a moment to look this over, and you can let us know in the chat if you can spot the glaring mistake from the AI, and if you have any ideas on what parts might be a bit more subtle to pick out.
So you guys can type in the chat or you can unmute yourselves if you'd like, but just some of the things, Megan, that I'm seeing are definitely a use of threes at the end of the first sentence, like culture, comma, identity, comma, and power. That's always one that I like, so I always notice it whenever I see it.
Yes, that is a great example. Yes, thank you, Jill. Um, yes, one of the main markers is that there is a specific non-English language incorporated into the generated text. So that is the easiest marker to spot, and as Christina mentioned, you can see the threes in there. Yes, the final statement, not only but, and yes, the last sentence being contrastive. Great, great. Thanks, guys. Um, okay. So the obviously obvious one is the inclusion of a word that is in Hindi. When I popped the word into Google Translate, it turns out that it does mean conflict, which makes sense within the context of the statement, but somehow the AI algorithm decided to add in characters from a completely different language. Um, ChatGPT can just be silly that way. And the ones that require a bit more reading, as we mentioned, there's some contrastive construction and some of those triplets and things like that. All right, next. Okay, so now we have an example that is a bit trickier. One of these was created using ChatGPT, and the other is part of an actual speech given years before these systems existed. Are you able to pick out which one is which? And can you spot the hallmarks of AI writing that may indicate that an LLM was involved in creating one example? And again, if you want to unmute yourself to let us know what you see, or if you want to put it in the chat, I'll give everyone a few minutes to look these over as well. Oh, all right. So we have a guess that B is human. Okay. Is there anything in particular that makes you say that?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We're getting a little bit
The
of a consensus.
yeah, A has the threes in it.
Mhm.
And B sounds like a human would write it. I mean, firefight is courage. They use words like the levies. I mean, these are very
Mhm.
specific. A is just a real generic ramble.
Yes, yes. Those are great examples. And yes,
Mhm.
V is far more poetic. Has a certain level of emotionality to it that is hard to capture for something that is just using algorithms rather than actually pulling from human experience. Um, Anyone else have anything to add before we move on to the answer?
I do find it's kind of funny in part A where it says we choose to act, but literally no context into what that action is going to look like or be or say. Like it's just we're going to act on it and it's like nothing of substance.
Yes, it's all those words, those nice words without actually backing them up.
Right.
All right, I guess we can move on to the answer there. So the correct answer is that option A is AI. This res Yes, most political commentary these days. Yes, that is
True.
also accurate. So this response was created using ChatGPT, in which I prompted it to write a political speech about an act that went into effect in 2009 during Obama's presidency. Option B is an excerpt from Obama's actual inaugural address given in 2009 at the beginning of his first term. In example A, as we mentioned, there are many broad sweeping statements, but also multiple uses of contrastive construction, which was explained earlier as one of the hallmarks of AI writing. And also, we do see a few M dashes, but there are the same number in the actual human written text. So this is also just an idea of you can't always rely on those older hallmarks of AI writing to really get an understanding. In comparison to the AI generated text, the inaugural speech provides a bit more context to show the time for when the speech was written and given, such as Brian mentioned, the levees breaking, likely a nod to Hurricane Katrina, which had happened a few years prior. The speech also provides specific examples of the best qualities of the American people and provides a level of emotional connection that AI just seems to struggle to create because it's not human, it's a machine. Um, and so, thank you guys so much for your feedback and for your involvement and everything with that. So, now that we've covered writing, I'm going to turn it back over to Christina to talk about AI generated audio and video. Take it away, Christina.
Yay. I'm going to turn my volume down so that when I actually start playing these pieces, I don't deafen anyone. So turn that down a little bit. Um, okay, there we go. Thank you, Megan. So that was a great example of using step one specifically with written content. And when you're dealing with something like an anonymous review or a piece of material that's been posted online, we may not have information about the creator to move on to steps two and three, right? So it really depends on what we have to work with. That's a little bit different with AI generated audio. So there are two main types of AI generated audio. The first is AI generated speech, and this can be seen in audiobooks, in narration, as voiceovers for like social media posts, or in AI generated podcasts. And if you think that Seinfeld was a show about nothing, listen to an AI generated podcast. It is literally nothing but two voices agreeing with each other again and again and again and talking about how right the other one is. So it's a little grating to me specifically. But again, the other type of AI generated audio is actually AI generated music. So before this presentation started, when everyone was sort of coming in, connecting their audio, all of that fun stuff, I was playing an AI generated cover of PIMP, which was originally by 50 Cent. And the cover that I was playing was generated by an AI artist called Sold Out. Um, so since we are talking about AI generated music, I'm going to do a real quick detour to talk about ethics, because I think it's very important to know that people who prompt AI music are able to post it on platforms like Spotify, where they can make profit off of this content. So that's because Suno, which is an AI music generator, offers commercial licenses to its paid users for this exact purpose. Most of the songs that have become, most of the time, excuse me, these songs are posted with writing credits that are given to the original artist who wrote the lyrics, and then production credits are being given to the AI artist that prompted the technology. So it's really important to notice that a prevalent use of AI generated music is to convert rap from the 1990s and the early 2000s into soul and blues music, excuse me, from the 1950s. So with this situation, both the original genre and the transformed genre are based on the creativity and culture of Black and African Americans. And the identity of these AI artists aren't readily available. So we really don't know who is making money off of the Spotify plays for this music. It could very well be another instance of the music industry and white people profiting off of Black culture. So again, whether or not you use AI, whether or not you enjoy AI created products, it is worth being aware of where these products are coming from and who they are benefiting. So how do we detect it, right? What we look for to spot AI audio goes back to how humans and machines are different. We're going to hit that every time. The best things to listen for are the things that humans have to do while we are speaking or singing that machines have never done at all, right? So breathing, swallowing, coughing, all of those things, even when AI attempts to do them, are just not quite right. There is definitely a gap between something authentic and something computer generated at this point in time. Um, it's also difficult for machines to replicate perfect pronunciation, even, using GPS instruments. How many times have we heard a street name pronounced like completely incorrectly by the machine, right? It's pretty common. They're also pretty bad at guttural noises, which are common in like hip hop and in blues and soul music. Um, and there are limits to the language that AI will replicate. So specifically, there's no hate speech. They don't drop hard F slurs against the LGBTQ community. They don't allow excessive swearing, but really, like, what is excessive, right? So if you went back to the 50 Cent cover that I was playing earlier and listened to it carefully, you'll find that 99% of the time, the lyrics are saying that he is a mother fluffing PIMP instead of the accurate alternative. And it also does not replicate things that have a high sexual or violent content. But you'll notice it definitely called women bitches like a bunch of the time and talked about how to pimp one of them out. So, obviously, determining whether content is sexual, violent, or profane is something that we are still having to figure out when we're working with AI and what it will replicate. So here we've got another quick example. All right. This first song is War by Edwin Starr. I'm going to drop the link in the chat just in case we have technological difficulties. We're just going to listen to the very introduction. You'll notice the guttural noises right away, especially on the chorus. and again.
Yeah. What is good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again, y'all.
All right. And now we are going to listen to the beginning of this cover by the AI artist that I spoke of earlier, Sold Out. Pay specific attention to the instruments that would be used to make these sounds that we're about to hear.
Oh, good God, yeah. Throw your hands in the air right now, man. Feel the shit right here. Feel it? Yeah, Khaled Showbiz, Born Lord. Say it again. Yeah.
Especially in a moment, really listen to the tone.
Watch me now.
So, in that piece, we heard a note change from being sung by a vocalist to being played on an electric guitar to ending with a saxophone or some other kind of like horn instrument. So, obviously, there's no instrument in the world that is capable of doing all of those things in a single breath. And when they did make the guttural sounds, like at the beginning when they were doing like shouts and yells and stuff, they sound kind of hollow. Like it just doesn't have the actual depth that human sound has through like air and vibration, things that exist in the real world that again do not exist for machines. So they have a hard time replicating it. But again, this, just paying attention to the content itself, is only step one of our process. When we move on to step two, we start to investigate the creator. So this is the artist page on Spotify for Sold Out, and you can see that they have produced at least 3 full albums in 2025 and 2 more already in 2026. Each of these albums have about 10 to 12 songs. Consider how much time it would take to generate that much music manually. Consider the artists that would need to be involved in singing and playing the instruments and editing all of the tracks together at the end. Instead, there is no schedule and they don't have to worry about like a payment negotiation for the saxophone player because all of that is being done by the machine, right? So then we go to step 3, checking the internet, and here we find an AI overview and some additional blog and Reddit posts that are talking about Sold Out specifically and the way that they are creating and specifically changing music. Closely related to AI audio is AI video generation. There are also 2 main types of AI videos. There are AI generated video and deepfakes. So the distinction is that deepfakes take real content and apply AI edits to it. So many times this is replacing one person's face with another or using AI generated narration or audio over authentic video footage. We have heard a lot about deepfakes in pornography, where people are taking celebrities' likenesses and putting them over the faces of porn stars, or other types of deep fakes include footage of like Ghislaine Maxwell on a city street in Canada, but it's actually someone else who has, again, the face replaced with the face of another person. So here's what we can look for to try and spot the use of AI in videos. AI generated videos are typically of poor quality and they are full of things that just don't look right. And that's what I'm referring to when I say anomalies, things that don't really happen in the real world. They usually involve low quality security footage, or it may look like footage that comes from a Ring camera. They'll even add the logo, the little Ring logo at the bottom corner of the footage to make it appear more legitimate. It's very important when watching these videos to consider where the camera would need to be positioned to get the exact vantage point that they're recording from. Something that you can think of is if someone is holding something in front of themselves in both hands, that means that they had to come into this situation strapped with a GoPro that's live and recording. So that's not going to happen if it's something super spontaneous, right? Deepfake videos are harder to spot, but it is currently still possible. This is another reason why just doing step one of examining the content itself is not going to be enough in the future. We really need to go through all 3 steps to get a good idea of whether or not something is created by AI. And we are going to do that together for both of these videos. So these videos are from Instagram, and they are security alerts from news content creators. Remember when we're watching them to look for those anomalies that just aren't quite right, and consider where exactly the cameras would need to be placed to get this specific footage. And again, just in case we have some breakdown as far as our media, this link is for the first video that we're going to watch. I'm dropping it in the chat right now. And this second link is for the second video.
Attention. Women are being taken to emergency rooms after touching something that appeared harmless, a single rose placed on the handle of parked cars. Reports are now emerging across multiple states, and authorities warn that cases are increasing and spreading to new areas. If you drive, this information could help protect you and your family. The pattern is consistent. A rose is left on the vehicle door. The person removes it without concern. Shortly after contact, serious symptoms begin. Doctors report intense dizziness, confusion, severe headaches, nausea, loss of balance, and short-term memory problems. Tests have detected traces of a toxic substance capable of affecting the nervous system, leaving victims disoriented and vulnerable. Officials believe these incidents are not random. In some cases, victims may be observed beforehand, with the moment chosen when they are alone. This is a public safety warning. If you notice anything unusual on your car, especially a rose, do not touch it. Step away and contact authorities immediately. Share this alert now to help prevent the next incident.
So with that video, you may have noticed that some of the people fell a little weird. That when people were putting these roses on the door handles, they were really more just kind of waving the rose at the car and it sort of stuck. So again, we're seeing those things that are just not right. Like, you know that it's just not quite real. So those are things to pay attention to.
Okay, guys, I am really alarmed by this new scam going around, and I am someone who covers consumer news and scams for a living, so I could really see a lot of people falling for this one. So you know those CAPTCHA boxes you have to click "I'm not a robot" on? Well, scammers have found a way to create fake versions of this that look real, but instead of clicking a button, what they actually want you to do is press a series of keys. So here's a real world example of what this looks like that someone shared on Reddit recently. And here's the thing, when you are running this sequence, what you are actually doing is running a command that will download malware onto your device. That malware can steal your passwords, logins, potentially even banking information. So here's what you should know. A real CAPTCHA message will never ask you to run a sequence of keys. So if you see that, immediate red flag, close out of the tab immediately. Now, if you did this by accident, you're going to want to act fast. So disconnect from Wi-Fi, run a virus scan, change your passwords from a different device, and be sure to follow me for more scam alerts and consumer news like this.
So you'll notice in this one, we really didn't have the footage to go off of like people interacting with objects, but we did have some screenshots that looked pretty legitimate. And they both ended with a call out for the audience to follow them for more information. Again, these are really common things that happen on social media, but it's good to be aware of when someone is directing you to pay more attention to them. So let's go to step 2 on the first video that we watched. We're checking the creator. So the creator of this first video has a generic name and claims to be News Channel USA, but they genuinely are not trying that hard because they're not even following anybody. Many times these deceptive accounts will at least follow their creators or other fake news accounts to appear more legitimate. We can gain more information by clicking on these three dots next to the user's name and hitting the About This Profile button, or About This Account, excuse me. And that includes their location and the date that they joined. This News Channel USA is actually from Morocco, and they joined Instagram in January of 2026. So the video that I showed you is actually a video that my mom sent me. She sent it to me in February, the one with the roses and the women falling and all that kind of stuff. And when I went to go check the video to make this presentation, I found that it has over 1.3 million shares. So it has been sent to over 1 million people. Some of those messages, some of those shares may have been saying like, hey, look at this silly video. But some of them, like my mom, genuinely believed it, right? Hook, line, and sinker. Knowing the date that a user joined or the date that they started posting a specific type of content is also important when you know the dates that new versions of AI generators were released. Last August, there was an update to the image generator created by Google. In October, Sora released free access to AI video generation software. And in December, Google released an update to Nano Banana image generator, and they added the SynthID watermark system for all Google-generated AI images or video. So this SynthID watermark claims to have 100% accuracy for visual content created by Gemini specifically, even if it is a screenshot of the original content. It will also evaluate images and videos created by other AI or possibly created by AI, but it does have a lower accuracy rate on stuff not generated using Gemini. This year specifically, we just had an update to the Suno music generating AI, and in a few days, the OpenAI Sora video generator will be discontinued. They decided that it was not profitable and that they're going to be spending their time on other types of content. OpenAI is also the creator of ChatGPT. So the free version is ending on April 26th, and the paid version of Sora is going to be ending in September. So thinking back to the first video that we watched, now we do our final check, right? The internet. Doing a simple Google search, not only did I not find corroborating information, I found evidence that this specifically is a hoax. So again, by following those 3 steps of checking the content, checking the creator, and then checking the internet, I was able to report back to my mom that this was a scam and show her how to check for herself when she's suspicious of other content on social media. For the second video, looking at the content creator, we find that this one is created by an ABC affiliate out of Boston. And when we look at the About This Account information, they have been around since 2013, well before generative AI. They are actually based in the United States, which matches their publicly available information. And they are also verified, which is another way that Instagram will vet its users, saying that they are authentic. So all of this information adds up to say that this should be pretty dependable information, but there's still a third check to go through. So when I searched through Google looking for this type of scam specifically, I found videos that have been posted by other news channels and YouTube creators. And I also found resources for identity theft. So again, this is corroborating evidence. This is more people saying the same thing using different references to the same pieces of information. So all of that comes together to give me a pretty good idea of whether or not that was AI generated, and I believe it to be authentic. I even sent it to my mom to tell her to be wary of those kinds of CAPTCHA scams. So now it's your turn. I'm going to be dropping the links for each of these pieces of material in the chat. And then we will begin 2 breakout rooms, one for audio and one for video, so that you guys can review these on your own and then discuss whether you think they are AI generated, partially AI generated, or authentically human. So for the audio sample, we are using Spotify. There should be a way to access Spotify even if you don't have an account. You may need to listen to an ad. And then the second one is an Instagram post. So you will need Instagram to view it. But do not limit yourself to a single platform. You can look in a variety of places to gather more information. So here's that post there. And now I'm going to try to create breakout rooms. Let's see how it works. I'm going to let the participants choose the room. We're going to create 2 breakout rooms. Breakout room number 1 is going to be for audio, and breakout room number 2 is going to be for video. And I am opening them all. And like I said, this is going to be about a 10-minute little piece of time. Oh, perfect. So we will come back to the big group at exactly 1 o'clock. Again, room number 1 is audio and room number 2 is video.
Christina?
Yep.
Where do I see the breakout room option?
It should have come up on your screen. I'm looking at the controller side of it though. So Megan, did you see an option for breakout rooms?
I have the controls on my end.
Oh, you have the
So,
controls on your end
yeah.
too? So yeah, I'm sorry. Which one do you want to go to, Jill? I'll just put you in the room.
Video one, please.
Sure. And if anyone else needs to be assigned to the breakout room, just let me know which one you'd like to go to. What do we find? Megan and I jumped into the audio room for a little while. So if you want to start with video, and Hillary, you're muted.
Yeah, my dog's like barking, so I'm trying to tell him
Yeah. Zoom usually mutes that actually.
What?
Yeah, Zoom will mute loud noises like dogs barking and horns honking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jill and I were in the video room and it was really interesting because it was pretty good, but there were some things like in the video that I saw that made it seem AI. Like the hands, like when people were like swinging their hands, the image would drag, or if they were like going like this, like thumbs would be missing, or the shapes of the hands were weird. Like it was just they weren't clear. But then we did some searching on the internet, and it is an AI artist that uses AI to create the audio and the videos.
It reminded me very much of a group that I met with that does this on a the group that we met with for the African American History Project.
Yes.
It reminded me very much of what kind of hallucinations they have created and can create.
Yeah. So last year for Black History Month, we had an exhibit upstairs that had a hologram that you could open on your phone to like take a picture with a setting around you that had like 2 civil rights leaders and all this kind of stuff like around you. And there were little anomalies and there were little things that you could see that were just not quite like right, but it's because we were using tech to make it. We actually didn't get the song to open up in the audio group, but Megan and I investigated this artist covered in dirt, and genuinely, I cannot tell you whether or not this is AI generated or not. We investigated him. We found his music label. We found that on his music label, the other artists that are represented by this label have some of them have the exact same biography posted, but the name of the band in the first sentence is changed. So I'm actually going to be reaching out to this person on Instagram because I was able to find their Instagram, and I'm going to ask if they're real or if they're AI generated. Because I don't fully know, and that makes me very suspicious. So if I can't determine if something is human, I'm going to be suspicious of it until I'm able to make that determination. I heard someone the other day refer to the way they used AI as the way they use mind-altering substances like alcohol, where 3 days a week I might have a drink, but if I'm drinking every day, there might be an addiction situation happening. And that's because AI is extremely addictive. More research is coming out every day, more news articles are coming out where people are becoming addicted to the responses that they're getting through large language models like ChatGPT. Yes, Kathleen.
I have a comment about that. Okay, so I use Duolingo to practice languages and to teach myself. For example, right now I'm torturing myself with Latin. I love it, but it's really hard, right? It makes German look easy. That was my last language. But I love the AI with that for the most part because I get to interact because with whom will I speak Latin, right? And the same thing with German. It's, once in a while I meet a German speaker, but usually French and Spanish are much more likely. And yet, every once in a while, it goes berserk. Suddenly, the speaker has an American accent. And I think, wait a minute, this is definitely, I mean, I know it's AI, the person that I'm talking to, they all have names and they're cartoon characters. There are advantages, but also I don't use it throughout all my lessons. And it's usually just for the opportunity to have a little conversation for a couple minutes. That's the extent. And with language anyway. And I don't use it at all for writing. It's offensive to me.
I was using it to generate like first passes of emails just to get the tone right and things like that. But I find that I don't like it because it doesn't sound like me anymore.
No.
And that's just a personal preference. I am going to share just a couple more things and then we're going to be done. I did want to give you guys a few resources for the future, right? And I'm going to drop these in, oh, did I not save them on my links page? I didn't save them on my links page. I'm so sorry. I can type them into the chat, I think. But I'll take a minute to do that in just a second. But these are resources that are being continuously updated. So like every AI workshop you've ever been to, this information expires as soon as the workshop is over, right? We're just moving at that pace. But these are a couple of resources that are trying to keep up with the pace. The first one is the Wikipedia page for signs of AI writing. Wikipedia has recently decided not to include AI written material in its pages. So it has become very good at detecting signs of AI in writing. And this page is being updated continuously as the large language models are changing. So this is a great resource that you can go back to in a month, in a year, to see how things have progressed and changed. The second piece of resource, the second resource is actually both pieces are coming from a single researcher. His name is Jeremy Jeremy Carrasco. And he is at Jeremy Finds AI on Instagram. And he has recently published what's called a Substack, which is like a blog called riddance.ai. And that's the URL for the Substack is riddance.ai. It does not need a www or a .com. It's just that. And he does research into AI and media literacy. So when I was talking about the news accounts that are sowing distrust between the United States and Canada. That comes from his research. He's also done additional research on the proliferation of child sexual abuse material on Instagram through AI-generated content. So if you're interested in social media research, if you're interested in media literacy and identifying AI out in the wild, this guy is really, really good at it. And he specifically has videos about deepfakes. The deepfake that was Ghislaine Maxwell's face on someone on a Canadian street. He breaks down that video and shows you exactly what to look for to be able to identify the anomalies in a deepfake. So yeah, in the future, when you're suspicious of something and you're like, this just doesn't seem quite human, you can use these 3 steps to get a better vantage point of what you're looking at. And again, you can get yourself updated using these resources to make sure that what you're looking at is like the most recent version that exists, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that you're more updated than just what happens today in April of 2026. All right. Thank you so much for your participation. We're here for questions or comments. We can just chat about AI if that's what you're into. I did know that this was going to be a little bit longer than an hour, but I'm really glad we didn't hit the hour-and-a-half mark. So yay. But yeah, thank you all so much for attending. I hope that you can apply this in your real world life because that's like the whole point, right?
Definitely.
Thank you,
Okay.
Christina.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Very helpful.
Awesome. Great.
See you soon.
See you. And this will be captioned and posted on our YouTube channel.
Great. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
Bye.